Well, I thought I had a friend in you, and now I don't know what to do. 'Cause all the things you said got them stuck inside my head. Well, I thought I had a friend in you. We kept our cards close to our chest, and I clearly could have never guessed. Well, our life's been up and down, but you're still wearing your crown. Well, I thought I had a friend in you. You're the kind of guy that gave the wrong impression, and suddenly there was such an obsession. The fact you let me go, 'cause all I said was no. Well, I thought I had a friend in you. You're not the guy I thought you were. No, now I'm feeling really hurt. Oh, with what you tried to do, me and my family. But it's safe to say nice try, but then I thought I had a friend in you, assuming that I didn't have a clue. You went behind my back to plan that shit attack. Well, I thought I had a friend in you, and now I think it's safe to say, now you're clearly out my way. Well, it's time to say goodbye, and I think we both know why. I thought I thought I had a friend in you.
Well. I thought that we could use a little musical interlude today. That song is dedicated to His Queenliness, the Queen of England. In fact, some might say that song is even about the Queen of England, or from England, excuse me. You shouldn't confuse the Queen of England with the Queen from England, because the Queen of England knows how to keep her fucking mouth shut, and the Queen from England apparently hasn't learned that lesson yet, as evidenced by the fact that he literally had a woman write a song about his obsession with her, and now he's moved on. And now he's moved on to someone else. It has been a joy to deal with this bullshit for the past 7 months. Thank you to His Queenliness for that beloved gift that you gave me. But, we're not here to talk about His Queenliness. His Majesty? I don't know. We'll have to come up with another name for that later. We're here to talk about many, many other things. But guys, if you are wondering what I am talking about, and you've seen some drama queens on Twitter running their mouth using evidence that is not exactly on the up and up, you can refer to this stream that I did last night around 1 a.m. in My Locals. My Locals is the place where I dish all the tea. My Locals is the place where I tell the truth about what's going on. And last night, I did a stream dedicated to the Queen from England. That you can learn more about that and any other rumors that you might be hearing. And I'll give you the too long didn't watch. I'm not the one who's been talking about the other for months and obsessing about the other for months. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We are here to talk about something that has nothing to do with this drama at all. We're here to talk about Burlington Vermont's racial equity plan. In some respects, a document that might even be more dramatic with His Queenliness and his nonsense on Twitter. And Queen from England, just in case, we're going to go back to this for 1 sec. We're going to do important work in a second. But I've been dealing with this bullshit now for a while. And so Queen from England, you really think, Queen from England, I can't make another burner account? per the email that I sent you 4 days ago. I am not going to stop looking at your public ramblings and obsession over me until you stop talking about me. It's real simple, Queen from England. It's real simple. Stop obsessing about everything I say and everything I do. Stop tweeting about me. Stop engaging with stalkers about me. I mean, listen, guys, the kid literally had a woman write a song about how he's obsessed. This song is literally about the Queen from England. It's a great song, isn't it? I've been listening to this song quite a bit in the last 24 hours. It's Millie Jean Franks, the guy. She's got a great voice, talented girl. So, if anyone has questions about any nonsense that they might see showing up on Twitter from sad, obsessive boys or queens in England, and they would like answers for what they're seeing, there's a whole stream about it. There's a whole stream about it. And you can refer to that. And that is the type of stuff that you get as a member of my locals community. You get the content creator gossip, because let's just be honest, you know. Oh, John, was that you? Was that you? Oh, John, you're this. I wasn't sure if that was you. I thought it might be another Morgan. John, you're like the sweetest guy, and I adore you, and I hope you know that. This is the type of stuff you get in my locals community, because my locals community is a work hard, play hard community. We do work hard, and the Unwoke Army has been working overtime in the past week and a half. And we're going to be talking about some of the great work that my Unwoke Army has been doing, or our Unwoke Army, because it is certainly not just mine. And you know what the funny thing is? My Unwoke Army, we work in a Discord server. So we've got what's becoming a well-run machine in the Discord server. And in one of our channels, I guess they're called. I don't know. I'm old. I don't know the names of these things. We actually have a content creator drama channel where we talk about this stuff all the time. We are work hard, play hard in my locals community. Guys, if you enjoy the work I do, if you enjoy the streams on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on my main channel at 5 o'clock, if you enjoy my Friday happy hours, which on occasion become breaking national news, every once in a blue moon, that happens. Please consider joining my locals community. It is the best group on the internet. I love them all. They have been my rock. They have been my supporters. They have been the people that have lifted me up when I've almost quit 70,000 times in the last year. You can join us at kb.locals.com/support. You can join for $5 a month. You can join for $50 a year. You can also make a one-time gift. You get lots of stuff when you become members of my locals communities, including our book club that's coming up. We are reading Conversations with God, Book 1. We will be having a discussion about it on April 30th at 3 p.m. I'm really looking forward to this. This is the infamous book that I quoted that says, Hitler went to heaven. When you understand that, you will understand God. If you want to know why I said Hitler went to heaven, you're going to have to read this book. There's philosophy behind it. There is a perspective, a point of view of looking at the world that I think is one of the most beautiful philosophical perspectives that I have encountered. That's why I've studied it for 20 years, and I love it. Now, this is not like a core text of my belief system or anything like that, but it is one. I reference this book to people all the time just because it was one of the ones that really helped me to wrap my head around this idea. And it was also just, I think it just explains it beautifully. The audiobook is great. They did, what's so interesting about the audiobook for Conversations with God is they did both a male and a female voice for God. So it's a wonderful audiobook if that's your thing. We're going to be talking about that on April 30th. And of course, one of the main perks that you get access to, is a Christian invited to book club? No, a Christian, i.e. poetry painter, i.e. Jill Fugman, is an insane person who is not allowed anywhere near my locals. She can F right off. But what we do in my locals community, we have one coming up in a couple hours today, is we do 2 community Zoom calls every single week. We do them on Mondays at 7 p.m. We do them on Wednesdays at noon. My community Zoom calls are the best. This is a private, unrecorded Zoom call where we talk about what is ever on our mind. I'm sure we're going to have some gossip to talk about today. Hopefully, we also talk about some news and other things going on as well. I spend between 6 to 8 hours on Zoom every single week with my locals, and I enjoy every single second of it. So if you become a supporter on this stream, you can, You can join us at 7 o'clock. Guys, if you've been thinking about becoming a supporter in my locals community, now is the time because it is my birthday. Well, not today, tomorrow. Tomorrow is my birthday. It is my 12th, 29th birthday. And so if you want to give me the best birthday present that you can possibly give me, come check out the community. I really do credit my locals community with me staying sane, with people, including the Queen of England, going insane on Twitter. Queen from England, god dang. I have to remember my own naming convention. With everyone and their mother, including the Queen from England, losing their effing minds due to Twitter and getting obsessed with Twitter and wanting to impress people on Twitter and wanting to get clout on Twitter as though Twitter means anything in the real world. My locals community keeps me sane. I think it keeps other members sane. And the very best birthday present you could give me would be by becoming a member and supporting the work I'm doing, because we have a lot going on. We're working really, really, really hard on this the stuff coming out from Burlington, and now we've got other schools in Vermont as well, and that is going to be the main subject of our stream today. Liberty Lion says, happy 29th birthday. Thank you. I literally just got back from Boston, and one of the reasons I was late is I went to Boston today to have brunch with Joshua, and brunch lasted 3.5 hours. But it was really great, and it was awesome to see Joshua. And guys, by the way, breaking news, Joshua is going to be coming to do an intro to astrology class exclusively for my local supporters on April 20th. That is a Wednesday. April 20th. I think it's April 20th. We just talked about this. It's on my calendar. Is it in the calendar on my phone? I want to make sure. Before I announce it. Yes, April 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Joshua's going to be joining us in locals for an introduction to astrology class. It's going to be great. If you can't get enough of Joshua, this is Joshua in private time. So it's even more fun than when we're doing Nothing Remotely Controversial on Wednesday nights. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've learned so much from him. And and astrology is not just about horoscopes and telling the future and that sort of thing. There are different archetypes. There are different paths that we move and different stages that we move through life and different aspects of our life that are covered by astrology. And it is for me, thinking about balancing out the different aspects of my life, when strategically I should do certain things or not do certain things. It really has been one of my most valuable tools that I've used throughout I used astrology to plan literally every aspect of my organizational psychology business. Not every aspect, in terms of the dates of things and when I would launch things, and it always worked. And anytime I didn't listen to Joshua when he was telling me do this on this date, don't do this on this date, it didn't work out. So it is so valuable in so many ways. And Patrice says, how do we sign up? Well, for right now, just become a supporter in locals, because I literally just found this out an hour and a half ago. So I don't have a promo or anything yet, but we will be talking about that on April 20th. Graphically Alex says, will we use astrology to dismantle white supremacy? Yes, if you want to. You can use it to do anything. You can also use it to dismantle the woke. Whatever you want to do, it will help you understand how you do that. Just T says, I'm using it for my wedding. So far, so good. Just don't get married under Mercury retrograde, man. No Mercury retrograde ever. No, 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 no. If you don't do that, you're going to be golden. All right, guys, what I thought we'd do on the stream today, and the reason I wanted to start this stream dedicated to the Queen from England is because I was working on this last night, and then the Queen from England decided to throw a fucking temper tantrum on Twitter. And he distracted me for several hours. And so I thought we would just have a little working session. And I want to include everyone in this. I want to recommend that every single person in the chat, whether you are watching on YouTube or Odyssey or Rockfin or Rumble, I got Rumble up and running again just for you, Qbert, or even on Gitter. I want to encourage everyone. Actually, this is not on Gitter, but if you're watching on Gitter, you can come over to my YouTube channel or go into my locals community to download it. I have put the link to this PDF file in the description, and on YouTube, the link is pinned to the top of the chat. And so this is Burlington City's Racial Equity Strategic Roadmap as of July 2021. And you can see, I'll make this one a little bit bigger. So you can see, so I want to go back to last week. Last week, here we go. We can even look at this. My unwoke army broke some news that the Burlington School District in Vermont was conducting crazy grooming sessions with middle school students on the internet. And it was covered by a bunch of people. Ben Shapiro covered it, and Laura Ingraham covered it. And that's really great. And maybe we can even just watch. Do you guys want to watch has everyone seen the Laura Ingraham clip? Well, she only talked about it for a second. I can just talk about this. We don't need to watch Laura Ingraham right now. But this was covered all over the place, made a big splash on Twitter. We got over 1 million views. And now we're starting to deal with kind of the next step. Yes, Janelle, it leads to a link in Locals and you can access it. You just need a Locals account. And then you can sign up for a Locals account for free. That link is available for free. You just need an account, but it's not behind the paywall, so anyone can download it. So we're starting to get some rumblings coming out of Burlington. The reason I showed this article from the Vermont Digger is because it is really only talking about the fact that Fox News covered what we did. So Vermont is an uber woke state. There is a Democrat supermajority in their state house. They do have a Republican governor technically, and I guess he's kind of a Republican, but like not really. He's really more of like a centrist Democrat. He's more like Joe Manchin. He's effectively Joe Manchin in Vermont. And so there is like some check on the Democrats in Vermont, but really it's not that much. Their media is uber woke. All the people in Burlington are uber woke. It is nuts. And one of the reasons that I thought it would be valuable in this series to focus in on what's going on in Burlington is I do genuinely believe that Burlington is going to be the first city in America to be built entirely on equity. Now, last week, we covered what was going on in the schools. The Unwoke Army, which comes from my Locals community, is continuing to work on what is being done in the schools. But what I wanted to do was actually expand out in the next article I'm working on. In the next article I'm working on in this series, which is going to be on my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. The next article that I'm working on right now is an article updating you about not just the schools, but Burlington City itself. And the reason I'm doing this is because A, the parts of this racial equity roadmap that I've looked at are crazy. But B, last week, and I covered this on F'd Up News yesterday, Burlington City's mayor came out in support of what the Burlington City schools are doing and said, I am so proud to send my daughters to the schools that are grooming middle schoolers live on the internet. Tweeted this out. I'm not kidding. So the next thing I wanted to do was look at the racial equity strategic roadmap. Now, because I got so distracted last night by the Queen from England throwing a temper tantrum on Twitter, I didn't get to do the research that I wanted to do. I thought we could all do this together. It's like a group activity, a group project. This is a 60-page report. Don't worry, we're not going to read the whole thing. If for no other reason, then I need to go to my Locals call at 7 o'clock. But we're going to take a look through Burlington City's racial equity strategic roadmap. I encourage you to go into my Locals. You can create a free account. Like I said, this is not behind a paywall in my Locals. That's just where I put the file. And you can download this document for yourself. And we have to treat this like a game. One of the things that's been really fun about the Unwoke Army is that we are kind of treating this, like fighting back against the woke, like a game. And what we need to do is to go through all their documents, watch all their videos, and then outsmart them. It's all about outsmarting them at the end of the day. Savrith is in the chat. The astrology of spirit dictating our thoughts and feelings comes from situational gravity and how illuminated our current perceptions are of that gravity. Savrith, that is fascinating. Savrith also always has the deepest thoughts. I appreciate you, Savrith. You always make me look at things in a different way. All right, guys, if you are ready to go, please make sure you mount that like button for me because we're going to have to counterbalance all the haters that the Queen from England is. The Queen from England's probably... Hi, Karen. I know you're watching. You always do, right? You always do. Because you're fucking obsessed with me. But we have to counterbalance all of the thumbs down that the haters give us because we're actually focused on work, while the Queen from England and all his merry men, or merry ladies as it were, are focused on nonsense on Twitter. We have to do the real work that they very literally refuse to do. All right, let's dig into it, and we're just going to start looking through it, and I'm going to make this nice and big so that everyone can see it. Actually, why don't I do this? Why don't I... It might be better for me to look at this in an actual like Adobe thing, show in Finder. That might make it look a little bit better. Aha! Let me switch out the because the problem is the way I'm looking at it in the browser right now, it's spread all over my screen and I really can't read a dang thing. But yeah, this roadmap is crazy, guys. One of my the members of my Unwoke Army, shout out to Justin, was reading me some of this like a week and a half ago, and I thought he was lying with how crazy it was. I legitimately thought that that he was not telling the truth and that he was making this up because he was just reading it to me out loud. All right. This racial equity strategic roadmap is from July 2021. Let's see. We can see we've got the city of Burlington. They got a whole project manager. We've got the Vermont Racial Justice Alliance. They've got planning and visioning consultants. They've got an architecture firm involved. What the hell does architecture have to do with anything? I don't really even know. So we've got a welcome letter here. Let's read their welcome letter. America is changing. There's a realization for the white community that racism, whether overt or covert, still exists in this country. Even while for hundreds of years, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC, have been screaming at the top of their lungs to be treated equally. Oh, this plan is going to be about as good as I think it is, isn't it? Our collective cries for hope and freedom from oppression have, until recently, fallen on deaf ears. These cries have been muffled by microaggression, inherent bias, and outright racism, systemic and individual, to ensure the comfort of the white population, to ensure this country remains engaged in white supremacy culture. It is a stain that goes so deep we often wonder if and how we can remove it. I don't believe ignoring history that is clearly affecting the present should be the goal. America cannot be the moral authority of the world when its BIPOC citizens, in particular Black and Indigenous, have been treated less than second-class citizens. Burlington cannot be the capital of progressiveness. This is actually telling, isn't it? Burlington, I told you, Burlington is going to be the first city built on equity. Let me I can make this a little bit bigger so we can actually look at this singular page. Look what it says. Burlington actually sees itself as the capital of progressiveness. And this is why Burlington is so dangerous, because it's not just about one equity office in one school district, right? This is literally the entire city government supporting this extreme progressive ideology. That's what we're talking about. Burlington cannot be the capital of progressiveness when there is no room for racial justice, spaces of belongings, and insurance that BIPOC can show up as an authentic version of themselves, not an assimilated version. This strategic roadmap is the first step towards racial equity and racial justice informed by the community. The wants and needs of the BIPOC community are a top priority for the REIB team. Equality cannot be the goal. They literally say this. Equality cannot be the goal. We are far past that. Equity and equitable outcomes are the goal. Holy shit. Ez is changing the culture of the city to reflect the richness and value of all Burlingtonians. We are focused on making Burlington a place where race isn't a determining factor in any outcome. Dang, they're really saying the quiet part out loud already, and this is just the letter of introduction. I told you guys this was crazy. This is why it had to be the next article about the city. This is why right here. Not only does the mayor of Burlington support grooming in schools, apparently according to his Twitter, but they are literally trying to make themselves the capital of progressiveness. They are saying clearly that this is all about creating equal outcomes. Guys, if you know anyone in Vermont, please make sure they are aware of what's going on. We are trying to coordinate with parents in Vermont, with not just parents, but concerned citizens. Anyone can fight back. You don't have to have kids. But yeah. Incognito, an entire city on equity and CRT and discrimination. That's right. Burlington, Vermont is trying to build a city based on equity. Why isn't this being reported anywhere else except my YouTube channel? Because journalists are not real anymore. Journalists are a figment of our imagination, where they're fucking around with gossip on Twitter like the Queen from England who claims to be a journalist but then just spends his days fucking gossiping and lying on Twitter. Anyway. Oh, look at that. Is that the OK symbol? That kind of looks like the OK symbol. It does. I'm going to be kind of scrolling through parts of this, and we're going to stop and read things that we find the most interesting. And again, I want to encourage everyone to download this document. Look through this document for yourself while I'm looking through it. I will be keeping an eye on the chat, at least the one that gets into StreamYard. Yeah, Ben Shapiro did give a mention last week. He did. I appreciated that. But we're not going to read everything. Okay. So the budget allocation and planning. Look at this. So $2 million for interdepartmental support. Okay. The $1 million Burlington has designated for this process is a 3-year down payment on a much larger process. So essentially, we just learned that Burlington is dedicating millions of dollars to this. Millions of dollars to this idea. Okay, that's good. They've got a big Black Lives Matter mural going down the main street in Burlington. Look at that. They've got a huge this is like the main street when you drive into Burlington, when you're going to Lake Champlain. This is like the main street. All right. Let's look at this page right here. Let's look at their introduction, because that letter in the opening was so eventful that I feel like we need to read this too. Why a racial equity strategic roadmap for Burlington? Burlington is widely heralded for its progressive economics and social policies and public Oh my God, look at the irony of this. They're saying they're promoting individual liberties while at the same time promoting equity. I don't know about that. Vermont was the first state to abolish slavery, true, and to introduce same-sex civil unions, true. So if Vermont was the first state to abolish slavery, then why are we talking about Vermont as a bastion of white supremacist culture? Its most populous city, Burlington, has blazed the trail for other American cities, pursuing policies and programs that promote general quality of life and prioritize livelihoods of local people over those of multinational corporations. The hallmark of Burlington's progressivism is a strong public sector leadership, while many other American cities transformed their blah, 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 blah. I'm not seeing much interesting there. Sometimes we have to speed read. Let's see. Amid nationwide protests in defense of Black lives and uneven impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on BIPOC communities, the city of Burlington made a commitment to further racial justice by allocating $1 million to the Racial Justice Fund in the city's fiscal year 21 budget by declaring racism a public health crisis. Okay, so Burlington was one of those cities that declared racism a public health crisis. I don't think anyone is surprised by that. In 2021, Burlington also became one of the only municipalities in the nation to establish a task force on reparations. Ding, 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 ding. The Racial Equity Strategic Roadmap seeks to harness Burlington's record of strong public leadership and progressive urban policies to catalyze a much-needed shift from color blindness to anti-racism. So they are literally saying that they are trying to build the city on anti-racism and equity. Yes, Sin needs a wine spritzer. Sin, get one for me too. I didn't even have a cocktail at brunch with Joshua. I wasn't enticed by anything. Please get me one as well. I appreciate it. The process entails listening to and learning from Burlington's BIPOC community and organizers how white supremacy and systemic racism operate at across different sectors. And then they've got a footnote. Let's read the footnote. I have a feeling that there's going to be some stuff in some of these footnotes. For example, in 2012, the Burlington School Board, ding, 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 ding. Look at this. Burlington School Board released an equity and disparities report following a contentious meeting among parents, students, and teachers on harassment and the treatment of BIPOC students. And in 2018, the University of Vermont campus students, faculty, staff called attention to racism on campus and called for reform. Well, a call for reform, that just says everything, doesn't it? Broadly speaking, anti-racism centers emerging leaders and collective assets from Burlington's BIPOC communities. It shifts the decision-making and resource allocation to combat racial justice and social injustices and to heal Burlington forward into a truly equitable future. See? I told you, Burlington, Vermont, first city in America built entirely on equity. It pains me. Guys, by the way, Styx Hexenhammer, I get this question all the time. Styx Hexenhammer is kind of aware of what's going on. I know he just had a baby, and so I'm sure that his focus is elsewhere, but I've been getting so many questions about, does Styx know this is going on? Yes, he is aware that it's going on, but I'm sure he is also a little distracted with his new addition, and congratulations to Styx for that. Culture is a strongly held and widely shared set of beliefs that guide our behavior. It influences everything, blah, 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 blah. Burlington cannot meaningfully advance racial equity without addressing the dominant civic and institutional culture of whiteness. It is critical to unpack how the dominant culture of American cities is steeped in white supremacy and this country's legacy of racial opposition in white supremacy and the country's legacy of racial opposition. Moving forward, it is crucial to identify present-day impacts on the communities of color and to explore new and intentional ways to establish cultures of freedom, belonging, and justice for BIPOC Burlingtonians. Whether to mitigate racial injustices or realize racial equity. You notice how they check this out. Notice how they said mitigating racial injustices or realizing racial equity. Those are two different things. They're two different things. The city of Burlington will need to pursue a targeted approach that incorporates BIPOC voices, assets, needs, and solutions. The 3-year strategic planning process will build on existing efforts by the cities of Burlington's Office of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. Oh, that's what REIB means. Okay, that makes sense. To shift existing culture systems, citywide change requires broad-based, integrated adoption of new behaviors, policies, procedures across agencies, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm just going to make this small again so I can actually see. This roadmap outlines necessary cultural, institutional, and systemic shifts for the city of Burlington. These are rooted in a framework of a targeted universalism, where universalism is a principle that treats all people the same, independent of culture, race, ethnicity, and other forms of identity. Within a targeted universalism framework, universal goals are established for everyone, but the strategies developed to achieve those goals are targeted based on... Holy shit. Okay. Look at what they're doing. So, they have this framework that has universal principles that should apply to everyone. So this is, I'm betting that's going to be here. Define a universal goal. It might be better to look at this. Define a universal goal across all populations. Then measure how the overall population fares relative to the universal goal. And then they're segmenting down by immutable characteristics. This is where equity starts to come in. When they start to segment by immutable characteristics, that's when we are no longer at equality and we are moving into equity, because what they're saying is they're going to dedicate city taxpayer resources unequally, purposefully unequally, to be able to create equality of outcomes. And then understand how structures and other factors support or impede group progress towards the universal goal, and implement targeted strategies. By targeted strategies, what they mean is unequal investment of taxpayer money so that each group can achieve their universal goal based on their need and circumstance. From each according to their ability, to each according to their need. Who said that? I know you guys know the answer. Don't answer if you've answered this before. Let the newbies answer. From each according to their ability, who to each according to their need. Who said that? We have to review sometimes, even if you know the answer, and I know many of you know the answer. Marx! 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 That's Marx! Marx! See, sometimes I know you guys sometimes get sick of me saying the same thing over and over again and asking questions and like doing pop quizzes that we've done before, but not everyone watches on every stream, and people need repetition. People need repetition. That's how we start to internalize this stuff. Anytime we see something based on outcome, what I want is instantly people in their head going, Marx, 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 Marx. Not Groucho, the other one. The other one. The one that's all about power and oppression. Let's keep going. Key to this approach is setting goals that have the greatest impact to change, whether that what is easiest or comfortable. Okay, groundwork. I'm not as interested in their planning right now as I am interested. Okay, I do want to talk about this. Okay. So, in the Burlington schools, one of the most overlooked parts of what's going on in the Burlington schools so far, and I understand this, man, people were distracted by the fact that middle school students were being groomed on video and that a 7th grader was caught on video talking about coming out in the 5th grade with the help of their guidance counselor. I understand why this has been overlooked, but one of the more interesting parts of the Burlington story is that the school budget is built entirely on equity. The school's budget is built on equity. And how they're doing that is with a RISE allocation, which is they have the core budget foundation, which is like the minimal that every school needs to operate. They have a staffing allocation. And then there is a component of the budget in the Burlington schools in which the resources are allocated based on their RISE calculation, or which is pertaining back to equity. So we're seeing here that they're kind of doing the same thing at the city level. While Burlington's progressive achievements are significant and existing priorities are useful, questions remain as to how they specifically benefited BIPOC Burlingtonians and what a racially equitable Burlington looks like. Let me just highlight that so I can remember where it is later. To be able to begin to address these questions, the city of Burlington has been working closely with the Vermont Racial Justice Alliance to utilize its Operation Phoenix RISE framework. At its core, Operation Phoenix RISE aims to transform the lives of Black and Brown people by investing in their communities and economic aspirations by providing them with opportunity and ensuring racial equity. Early priorities have been identified in collaboration with the city and should be further activated and expanded upon as part of this roadmap. Okay, that's not really that eventful. Sometimes when you're reviewing these documents, not everything is eventful. And that's something that, like, when you're looking over documents and PDFs, you just kind of have to get over. Because this is like, I'm actually doing work right now. You guys are kind of coming along for the ride. I'm doing double duty. And sometimes you got to look through a lot of boring stuff to find those really woke cringe jewels that we then use later. Let's see. They had BIPOC listening sessions, fine. This is strategic planning. They probably had like every Black person in Burlington out on the road that day. I'm not being exaggerating there. Look at this. They had a whole process. I want to know what their results are. I don't care about any of this. I want to know what their results are. So they have goals based on economy, education. Let's look at this a little bit more closely. Yes, John Morgan. It's like panning for gold. That's exactly right. It's like panning for gold. And when you find the gold, you damn well know you found the gold. Okay, so it looks like their visions and goals at a glance. Economy. Burlington wants to build an economically sustainable community where BIPOC residents prosper and thrive. I don't know why they wouldn't just want all residents to prosper and thrive, but that's okay. They want growth in BIPOC owned businesses, growth in BIPOC targeted jobs and opportunities. BIPOC targeted jobs. Isn't it illegal to hire people based on their race? What is considered a BIPOC targeted job? Growth in BIPOC targeted funding and resources. Increase in sustained community engagements around economic issues. Build and promote a healthy for education. So this, of course, is important to us because we're specifically looking into the schools. So let's just give this a whole general highlight. They want to build and promote a healthy and nurturing learning environment that is representative of the BIPOC community, with higher recruitment and retainment of BIPOC faculty and leadership, broader equal access to resources for BIPOC residents. Well, don't wait. Are they saying that BIPOC residents don't have equal access to resources? That sounds kind of racist, Burlington. Creation of community-centered learning approach and improved equity across the learning spectrum. So this last one is actually the most important. So I told you that the Burlington school budget is literally built on equity. We're also seeing in the Burlington City Equity Plan that they want improved equity in the school system. Health. Develop and advance the accessible and high-quality public health system to empower BIPOC communities and culture. Increase in access to food and resources. Increase in BIPOC representation in the healthcare system. Support public health of BIPOC communities and cultures. And increase diversity education for children and adults. Why is that under health? Do you guys see that? Hang on, let me make this a little bit bigger. Why is it under health to increase diversity education for children and adults? Housing. Support and expand equitable access to high-quality housing and home ownership. Growth in BIPOC ownership of housing and land, growth in resources to support homeowners, growth in resources to support... Burlington could have used a good proofreader. I've already found like 4 or 5 typos in this report. Improve quality of housing, fine. And justice. Build and strengthen justice and equity in all systems. Increase the BIPOC representation and leadership. Ensure equal access to opportunities and resources. Build collective BIPOC vision and voice. Build justice and equity into all systems. So we're going to go ahead and highlight that one as well. I want to, so we're getting into, okay, so here is their plan for the schools. Savret says, weak psyches are highly suggestible to deconstructionist ideologies. My ancestors were some of the actual indigenous of the Delaware tribe. There was no B. I'm not sure what you mean by B there, Savrets, but I appreciate the rest. Do it, Grandma Nay. Do it. Do it. Do it. Okay, so in education, challenges. Manchester, New Hampshire is never going to do this. This won't fly. This will not fly in Manchester, New Hampshire. Like I said, Manchester, New Hampshire is like, I mean, certainly it's a Democrat, but like it's not this Democrat. Okay? This isn't Democrat. This is Uber. Uber. As far, I know I look like I'm pointing at the right, but I'm pointing at Uber. Uber. Uber left. Savra says there was BIPOC. There was no BIPOC on your ancestors' land. Exactly. Exactly. AD says, this report brought to you by the same people that made up that whiteness chart at the Smithsonian. AD, I would not actually be surprised. That would not surprise me in any way. Thank you for the super chat. All right, there's a lack of diversity and lack of BIPOC representation among teachers and staff and issues of staff retention. There is unequal treatment. Oh, so they're perpetrating this lie in this report that there is unequal treatment of BIPOC students. Now, the reason I say that's a lie is that we've been through and have all of the Burlington School District data that says, in fact, there is not unequal treatment of BIPOC students. It says it in their own flipping reports. And before, and those reports came out, I believe, in the 20 to 21 school year. So that would have been before this report was written. So no, there is no evidence of unequal treatment of BIPOC students. That is made up. That is a lie perpetrated by the equity director in the Burlington School District. It is a flagrant lie based on their own data. There is unequal treatment of BIPOC students where overuse of punitive punishment leads to Black and Brown students being penalized at higher rates. No, this is not correct. Based on Burlington's own data. I'm going to even show it. Fuck it. I'm going to show it right now. Hang on. It's going to take a second. I just got to find it in my profile. I unpinned a tweet, and so now I got to scroll. I wonder if it's in my notifications. Okay, hang on. Oh, fuck it. I'll just go to my profile. I know I've tweeted this recently. I just need to scroll for a second, but I do want to show this. It's in the Actually, what am I doing? I can just show it on the Substack. Oh my god. I rely on Twitter too much for everything. I know I rag on Twitter all day. And then the moment that I need something, I'm like, let's go to Twitter. All right. Let me share the screen with the Substack. Substack. So I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you that they're lying when they say that Burlington disproportionately punishes. This is from the Burlington School District School Board Snapshots Goals Report for the school year 20 to 21. Goal A, suspension and disparities around race. They were trying to reduce the disparities around punishment in race. Number of out-of-school suspensions of students who identify as Black or African Americans has decreased. And students who identify as Black or African American were not suspended disproportionately in 20 to 21. So anyone who claims that there is disproportional punishment based on race in the Burlington School District is a liar based on Burlington School District's own effing data. This comes from their data that their school board had. So, this report that we are looking at from Burlington City that says there is unequal treatment of BIPOC students where the overuse of punitive punishment leads to Black and Brown students being penalized at a higher rate, that is not true. Denied. Fact fucking checked. There's a lack of resources and opportunity to support BIPOC students with limited materials, resources, and training that recognizes diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's a lack of awareness by law enforcement and police presence in schools that has an adverse impact on BIPOC students. There's a general lack of inclusive narratives in the curriculum that fail to offer diverse and historical perspectives. Let's see. Oh, yes! Fuck yes. Fucking victory. Fucking victory. Hang on. I'm going to show you guys what just happened. I'm going to show you how I know. Side note, topic change. I'm going to show you how I know the Queen from England is still watching me. Because the Queen from England's profile has gone from public to protect it on this very stream. Yes. Peace at last. And keep it fucking protected, Kieran, if you're going to keep running your mouth about me. This is what happens when you throw a temper tantrum on Twitter at 1 a.m. If you want to stop talking about me, then unprotect your tweets and talk about whatever you want to talk about. I don't give a flying fuck, Queen from England. But stop talking about me. And stop lying. And stop posting things out of context or flagrantly doctored to say something that I never fucking said. Stop doing all that bullshit. Because I'm going to keep looking. It is not hard to create a million effing burner accounts. I will keep creating burner account after burner account after burner account until you cut this bullshit out. This is stopping now. Keep the account protected or shut the fuck up. I don't care. You can talk about any other subject in the world. Just not me. Thank you guys for indulging me in that. Thank you. Thank you. I thought that song might do the trick. I thought that might do the trick, I have to say. Who does he think he is? He's going to win against me? He's going to pull this shit against me? No. And by the way, just for anyone who doesn't know what they're looking at, like, this is an interpersonal squabble that has been going on for fucking months that he has had ample opportunities to resolve, and he refuses to. He has had ample opportunities, the Queen of England has, to resolve this privately, and he downright fucking refuses. So, if he wants to play this game, I can play this game far better. Back to our regularly scheduled program. See, I don't need to physically cut his balls off. I did it figuratively by making him private his Twitter account. Health, housing, justice. Okay. What I'm really interested... Oh, that was it? Holy shit. What else do they have in here? Now we're going to go back and take a closer look at things. This isn't a roadmap. They've got all this stuff. Look at all these resources. Holy... Whoa. Hang on. Okay, side note. We're going to go back and read some of the other stuff in this report, but we're going to go back and read some other stuff. But I just want to point out to people, and this is kind of like a note for the Unwoke Army. Look what Burlington has been so nice to give us. They have been very, very kind to give us a whole list and treasure trove of information. They have been so kind as to give us all of these things that we can look into for nonsense. And if any intrepid journalist, a real journalist, wants to look into any of these things, these are all over the country. There's a whole appendix of resources. Download the PDF and start doing some journalism, mother effers. They have, look at this. Oh, Burlington is, they're talking about potential alignment and potential partnership with each of these. Fund free mental health fund for queer, trans, BIPOC residents. These are all things that need to be looked into. Every single one of these things are things that need to be looked into. Look at this. Savrits, thank you for the super chat. I might have to sit out the review because it's disgusting content under the guise of philanthropy and not mentalities that are born of spirit. Savrits, I totally understand. Like, one of the challenges I have with this particular work is that it really does, I find this ideology to be demonic. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Like, I have to smudge all the time. I have to smudge all the time. I have to meditate like a mad woman. I probably don't even meditate enough to get this goddamn energy off of me. But it does, like, I tell people all the time, and I told this to the Queen of England, and he didn't Queen from England, and he didn't listen to me. People descend into madness when they get into this game. And I think that the reason that they descend into madness is because it is so, so, so demonic. Yes, it was nice of them, Grandma Nay. Shout out to Gabrielle Clark in the chat. I hate these people too, Gabs. So we're going to have to go back at some point and probably look into these organizations. This is not going to be a high priority for the Unwoke Army. I will tell you that right now because we got our hands full, man. We got our hands full already. All right, but this could be interesting. Look at this. Equity metrics. How are they measuring equity? Yeah, well, Gabs is echoing me on this. And Gabs, I know this is something that you struggle with. This is something that I've struggled with. You know, in my book, Actively Unwoke, I have actually a whole chapter about self-care. And the reason I have a chapter about self-care is because this is a really hard game to play in. And one of the things that we're trying to do in the Unwoke Army is we want to make it fun. Like, I want to make this fun. I want to make it a game. I want to make it like a club. I want us to keep our spirits up. This is why we gossip and we do other things and we break things up because we need to in order to keep our spirits up. But let's look into some equity metrics. Let's see exactly how they're measuring equity. This actually might be one of the more interesting parts of this whole thing. Overview. Key considerations for this approach is to focus on setting goals that represent the biggest levers of impact to change versus what is easy or comfortable to address. Another important part of the voice and choice of Black, Indigenous, and people of color in framing the problem and narrative the data may or may not be conveying. This collaborative process helps to identify key areas for additional data collection. Analysis often happens apart from the people and places being studied, which can lead to incorrect findings and can even bring harm to the community. Giving people the opportunity to offer their interpretations of the data can reduce the risk of making incorrect and harmful interpretations. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that in this report about equity, they are saying there would be a harmful interpretation of data? What could possibly be a harmful interpretation of data? What might they mean by that? Yeah, harmful to who? Maybe they'll let us know. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to bet they have measurements when it comes to the schools. Education. Okay, let's see. Equity measurement by education. The gap in educational attainment between white students and students of color is largely driven by disparities in school poverty rates. Students of color are more likely to attend high poverty schools because of ongoing racial segregation forged through historical practices of racially exclusive housing covenants and zoning laws, as well as ongoing ones such as discriminatory hiring and mortgage lending. Well, this is kind of ironic since Burlington is one of the richest school districts in all of Vermont. So this report is basically like wealthy white people talking about poverty. That's what this is. Burlington is bougie, man. Bougie as hell. Students in high poverty schools often have less access to quality resources and lower scores on standardized tests than their wealthier counterparts. At the same time, the rising cost of college combined with decreased financial aid prevents many students of color who are disproportionately low income from attending college. They do have nice coats. They do. I understand. School poverty. Despite the 1954 Supreme Court ruling Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka that banned racial segregation, students of color remain far more likely to attend high poverty schools than white students. Racial segregation in the United States was forged through historical practices such as racially inclusive housing covenants and zoning laws, as well as ongoing ones such as discriminatory hiring and mortgage lending. These practices disposed communities of color and excluded them from economic prosperity Well, white communities have accumulated wealth. Okay. Yeah, so the rich really are out to get us. Exactly. Equities, there are substantial. Do you guys notice that they're not providing any data? Like they could conceivably provide data. They're not providing any data or evidence at all. They're just making a statement like it's fact. There are substantial gaps in educational outcomes between Black and white students in the United States. Recently, increased attention has focused on differences in the rates at which Black and white students are disciplined, finding that Black students are more likely to be seen as problematic and more likely to be punished than white students are for the same offense. Okay, we know this is provably not true based on Burlington's own data. Provably not true. Although the disparity suggests that racial biases are a contributor, no previous research has shown associations with psychological measurements of bias. Really? Really? Let's read this sentence again. I want to highlight this. How do I change my highlight color? I guess I have to click on it and highlight it in a different color. Okay, hang on. I want a different color. I want this in pink. Let's just drink in this sentence for a moment. Although these disparities, which they haven't provided evidence of, and we know don't exist in the Burlington School District based on the Burlington School District's own data, although these disparities suggest that racial biases are a contributor, no previous research has shown associations with psychological measurements of bias and disciplinary outcomes. They just admitted they don't have data to support this. Inequities in school discipline. I just want to emphasize again, we know based on Burlington's own data that this is not real anymore. Maybe it was at one time, but it is not real now. School disciplinary processes are an important mechanism of inequality in education. Most prior research in this area focused on significantly higher rates of punishment among African American boys. Controlling for background variables, Black girls are 3 times more likely than white girls to receive an official referral. This difference is substantially wider than the gap between Black boys and white boys. Moreover, Black girls receive disproportionate referrals for infractions such as disruptive behavior, dress code violations, disobedience, and aggressive behavior. We argue that these infractions are subjective and influenced by gendered interpretations. Using the framework of intersectionality, we propose that school discipline penalize African American girls for behaviors perceived to transgress normative standards of femininity. All right. You know why that's... Oh, I don't want that to be pink. I want that to be yellow. That one. You know why that's interesting to me? Because I distinctly remember, and I don't remember what video it was in or what I was looking at, but it was definitely something in regards to the Burlington schools. I just don't remember where it was. I distinctly remember watching something where students were saying that Black kids were getting more dress code violations. Oh, you know what it was? It was that the students' rights webinar, which I have. Even though, by the way, guys, even though the Burlington School District has taken down the 3 offending webinars that we got them for, I have all those webinars. They're on my hard drive. I'm going to be uploading them as an archive and making them available on activelyunwoke.com. We still have those webinars. Burlington ain't hiding nothing. We still have them. They still exist. But the reason I bring this up is that I'm pretty sure in one of those webinars, I heard something to the effect of that students were saying that Black kids were getting dress code violations more than white kids. And I wonder, is that true? Does Burlington have actually data on that? Or is that something that the students were taught by the adults and are now parroting the language of the adults? Because we know that this is a thing that's happening in Burlington. The adults are teaching the children what to say. So they're planting ideas in the children's head, and then the children are regurgitating the language. We can watch this happen right in front of us. It's actually really effing creepy. AD, thank you for the super chat. They are ignoring 4 decades of state Supreme Court rulings saying that poor districts must be equally funded as rich districts, and how that only closes gaps but can't after 8th grade, i.e. Abbott districts in New Jersey. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I will throw them this bone. We kind of watched this on Friday at happy hour. There is a legitimate problem in the Vermont public schools with how the schools are funded. There are some schools that just have significantly more money to work with than others. And I say that as someone who I grew up in Williamstown, Vermont. Very small town, rural school. The school was not my cousins lived 2 miles away from me and went to the rich school. Me and my brother went to the poor school, essentially. And so there are legitimate questions about school funding in Vermont, and I don't want to overshadow those. But I do think that makes the case that this is a socioeconomic thing, not necessarily a thing based on race. It's about socioeconomics. I could actually get behind that. But when you're making it about immutable characteristics rather than socioeconomics, then I'm not on board with that idea. Savrit says, watch The Great Manipulation. I made it will become illegal to discriminate against any, I don't know if I can say that word, in any black person of color, in any way under revolutionary law said in 1967. So I just want to make it clear to YouTube, he's quoting something from 1967. I don't want to get dinged for language. I know it's not your fault, Savrits. So no worries there. But no, I think it's a good note. Okay. High school graduation rate. The national high school graduation rate has risen to an all-time high. New figures released by the U.S. Department. Oh, figures. Oh, look. They do know how to include data. Look. They're showing us that they know how to include data because, lo and behold, they have included data. The U.S. Department of Education's National Center for Educational Statistics shows that 84.6% of students in the class of 2016 through 2017 earned diplomas for 4 years. That's a half point better than in 2015 through 16, when graduation rate was 84.1%. Deficit-based thinking and interpretation means attributing differences in educational outcomes among racial groups to students' deficiencies while ignoring the impact of systemic racism on those students. By failing to address systemic issues, deficit-based thinking tacitly accepts them and accepts more of students with fewer resources. Take SAT scores, for example. Black and Latinx students tend to score below the national average. Deficit-based thinking might conclude that Black and Hispanic students need to spend more time studying to close this gap. Okay. So wait, are they... Well, there is certainly a culture in Asian households where they do spend a lot more time studying. That's true. So it's basically saying, this is basically saying that we should ignore things like study time and parental involvement when it comes to educational deficiencies, and that we should focus all our attention on systemic racism. That's what this is saying. We're going to read it more closely, I promise, but this is essentially saying that any discrepancy in outcome in educational attainment is the result of systemic racism and nothing else. And that's just not true. Asians kick all of our asses because Asian mothers sit their kids down and force them to do their homework and then do extra homework on top of it and then make sure they review the homework and they do all the things. Asian families are much more strict about educational attainment. It's part of their culture. Let's make sure we read this section so we fully understand it. AD, thank you. Roland Fried showed Black kids can do just as well as white kids if they study as long. I mean, your skin color does not dictate your ability to learn concepts. I mean, it seems to me we might be dealing with like the bigotry of low expectations at the moment. Deficit-based thinking is an interpretation meaning attributing differences in educational outcomes among racial groups to student deficiencies while ignoring the impacts of systemic racism on those students. Fryer, 80 is sending in a correction. So that's interesting that they're labeling that deficit-based thinking. Let's just keep that one in mind. By failing to address systemic issues, deficit-based thinking tacitly accepts them and expects more of students with fewer resources. Well, it doesn't take money to force a kid to sit down and read the fucking textbook. And I don't care if that textbook is 30 years old. Math is math. Reading is reading. Writing is writing. It may not be the most up-to-date thing. And of course, in an ideal world, all schools would have like newer textbooks, except now those textbooks are going to be like destroyed with woke nonsense. But don't tell me you can't learn to read from or write or do math from a textbook that's 30 years old. They served me just fine. I was really good at math. Take SAT scores as an example. Black and Latinx students tend to score below the national average. Deficit-based thinking might conclude that Black and Hispanic students need to spend more time studying to close the gap. But that would ignore phenomenon like intergenerational systemic racism, which has privileged white perspectives in curricula, produced racially segregated schools, and caused students of color to internalize negative stereotypes. I just want to remind everyone at this juncture that the state of Vermont is like 94% white. Vermont is an extremely white state. Just the way it is. It's Vermont. How much systemic racism could there possibly be? Some describe the persistent discrimination against these students as creating an educational debt, so that simply providing them test prep or other services wouldn't be sufficient. Avoid deficit-based thinking means understanding systems of oppression and taking the time to look beyond the student to explain trends in your data. All right. Then we've got a section for justice. And then Appendix C, pre-existing priorities and accomplishments. And again, we're going to be specifically looking... Oh, holy shit. Holy shit. What is this nightmare? Below is a list of highlights, takeaways, and pre-existing priorities and accomplishments already identified by the city in other recent reports. Thank you, Burlington, for doing my research for me. I appreciate this. Okay. So apparently, Burlington has an 8-point plan that tracks data on COVID-19 by race and ethnicity, that communicates and builds trust with communities of colors. It enhances access to testing and healthcare. I wonder if that's for everyone or if it's just for communities of color. Ensure communities of color have access to and receive targeted, equitable share of economic relief and recovery resources. Of course, equity is not the same as equality, so that means more. Community declaration of racism as a public health emergency in 2020. When Burlington declared racism a public health emergency so they could go out and protest during a pandemic, they committed to sustained and deep work of eradicating systemic racism or organizations actively fighting racist practices and participating in creation of more just and equitable systems. Announce immediate and specific actions of our organizations to address the emergency in the work we do. Obviously, I'm going to have to look up this executive order. Commit to coordinate our work and participate in ongoing joint action grounded in science and data to eliminate race-based health disparities and eradicate systemic racism. Burlington Police Department traffic stop analysis. In their traffic stop analysis, they ended racial disparities in traffic stops. I mean, I guess that's not so bad. That's not so bad. Savrits, thank you for the super chat. The one world slave race will believe they are the highest beings and spiritually blind. Those who dispersed around the globe centuries ago can now absorb the technology and culture of these nations. Hang on, I'm just texting Josh over real quick while something's on my mind. He should be at the airport. Going back to Los Angeles. All right. Let's see. The city of Burlington has an equity report. Excellent. Excellent. Expand the library amnesty program. Is that like basically like you don't have to pay fines when you return your books? I like that. I'm in favor. By the way, did you guys hear that they're postponing this side note? Did you guys hear that they're postponing student loans again until the end of August? I'm on board with this. Listen, if we're all going to slowly descend into socialism, I would like my student loans canceled. I'm fully on board. I absolutely 100% believe the Biden administration is going to cancel student loans before the election. I 100% believe it. They keep pushing it out and pushing it out and pushing it out. They're like delaying the inevitable. They are 100% going to cancel student loans before the election. Mark my words. Someone fucking clip this and remind me of it later. And I'm not going to complain. Because we should all enjoy social. If we're going to be socialist anyway, we should all enjoy it, I guess. I know it's not right from like a like just fairness perspective. I understand that it is not okay that someone who paid for college out of pocket should have to pay my student loans. But sometimes you got to be selfish, and sometimes you have to act in your own self-interest, and I'm going to enjoy it. And I know that it is not the right answer that everyone wants, but if it's going to happen anyway, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain. Oh, good. The city of Burlington had a racial justice resolution in 2020. The city of Burlington prioritized the eradication of systemic racism in the creation of a municipal budget. Look at this. Burlington City also basing their budget on equity. Yeah, I mean, they should definitely cancel the interest. Actually, freezing the interest on these loans would be like a monumental help, to be honest. That would be great. I would take that. I think he's going to do it. Burlington PD, decrease through attrition the max total number of uniformed police officers by 30%. Okay. Oh, they're defunding the police. Holy shit. They're defunding the police through attrition. They're not doing it. So basically what this is saying, let me make it a little bit bigger. Burlington isn't going to do what Minneapolis did and just cut the police budget. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is that if a police officer quits, they're just not going to rehire that position. They're just going to let it go. So Burlington Police Department decrease through attrition the max total number of uniformed police officers by 30%, from 105 to 74 uniformed officers. General funds freed by reducing officers will be used to reduce demand for police services through social services, as well as social justice and racial justice and economic justice initiatives, including the Community-Based Cultural Empowerment Center, Minority-Owned Business Municipal Procurement Program, and a Capital Access Program. The City of Burlington will terminate the Memorandum of Understanding between the Burlington Police Office and the What does this mean? What do we think this means? The city of Burlington will terminate the Memorandum of Understanding between the Burlington Police Department and the Burlington School District by spring of 2021. Does anyone have any clue what that means? We need to find, this is a note for the Unwoke Army. We need to find out what this memorandum of understanding is between the Burlington Police Department and the Burlington School District. I want to know what that means that they canceled it. And it should be, we're going to need to find this racial justice. I need to find this anyway. So it should be in there. Yeah, I'm betting that means no police in schools. But I want to know the specific language of what it was. Because it's not a contract, it's just a memorandum of understanding, which is like a little bit more informal, like an agreement, a handshake, if you will. The Joint Committee of City Council Public Safety. This report is so helpful. The Joint Committee of City Council Public Safety Committee and Police Commission begin an inquiry into how to build a healthy and safe community. What institutions we need to reach that goal. Full assessment of the Burlington Police Department. Training and events that explore systems of oppression are required. Here we go. Look at this. Training and events that explore systems of oppression are required for city staff at all levels at least twice a year and 3 times for members of the criminal justice system. So, and I'm making a note to myself here. I'm just like making a mental note. We need to FOIA Burlington to find out what their training is for, what their systems of oppression training is for all city staff. I want to see those trainings. I want to know who's doing those trainings, and I want to see what those trainings say. Okay. FOIA, mother effers. Post comment. City established a task force to consider an apology or reparations for the role Burlington played in chattel slavery. Keep in mind that Vermont was the first state to get rid of what the fuck was it called? I forget the proper term. It's been a long day already, and I haven't had that much sleep. Citizen-led police commission can be entrusted with access to all complaints about sworn officers and city council-based public safety committee. Police commission be entrusted with and may ask for collection of additional quarterly demographic disaggregated data. Police commission must approve by simple majority any disciplinary decision the police commission must approve any disciplinary decision the police chief wishes to implement. Oh, dude, if I would never want to be the police chief in Burlington. Jeez. Thanks for hanging out, Metastep. I will look at your star chart and locals in a little bit. Guys, just as a reminder, we will be gathering in my locals community for our community Zoom in about half an hour from now. So if you would like to join our community Zoom, you have plenty of time to sign up. You can head over to kb.locals.com/support. These are supporter-only community Zooms, and I will look forward to speaking with some of you directly and privately in an unrecorded Zoom where we can gossip about the Queen from England and other assorted things, like Carrie Smith getting sued for defamation. I will see you all in half an hour, but we're going to finish looking at this. We're almost done. We got a couple more pages. The city negotiate for mandatory requirements to report use of force, stronger disciplinary measures, and full transparency of disciplinary proceedings in police encounters involving brutal or excessive force. Okay, that actually seems kind of reasonable. Burlington had a COVID racial equity rapid response team memo. Okay. They have Burlington has equity small business grants. Provide grants to BIPOC business owners who have been left out of all other relief efforts. Ask for $50,000 to achieve this. They've already dispersed. Burlington has distributed over $125,000 to 25 small BIPOC small businesses. I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying that's bad, by the way. I'm not saying that's bad. I think especially during the pandemic, we have to forgive places for giving relief. Okay. The Reparation Task Force. Creation of a task force to study reparations, considers a proposal for reparations and a city apology for the institution of slavery. So they've got a task force. I probably need to look up on their website there. Trends in racial disparities. I've got another report there. All right. I think we're almost done. I think that's it. All right, guys. We have been doing a very, very cursory, high-level overview of Burlington, Vermont's city racial equity strategic roadmap as of July 2021. Now, this was a little bit of a haphazard stream because you literally watched me do research on this stream that I should have done last night, but I did not do because I was distracted by a boy having a meltdown on Twitter. So I will be, in the coming days, writing an article about the Burlington City Schools. And that will be the next part in our series that we're working on about the schools in Burlington, Vermont. We are also, Savritz says, I'm designing a time capsule for humanity. Best of luck to you, Savritz. I think that's a great idea. We are also, oh, fuck, he opened his fucking Twitter again. God damn it. The Queen from England's Twitter is open again. God. Kieran, if you don't keep your mouth shut about me, we can continue this. And I will win, Queen from England. That was like half an hour of peace. Half a fucking hour of peace. No. Anywho, we will be continuing our series about the Burlington Public Schools. We are moving into also the Essex Westford School District. If you know of any parents in Vermont at all, or not even just parents, but like people who kind of like have our sensibilities, they're concerned, please have them reach out to us. They can email activelyunwoke@gmail.com. They can DM me on Twitter. I'm Dr. Carlin B on Twitter. They can DM Gabrielle Clark on Twitter. Her DMs are open as well. Have them reach out to us because we're going to start coordinating small private group meetings with people in Vermont to talk about how to get the word out about what is going on. Because the thing of it is like websites like this is one of the major news sources in Burlington, like their local media. They are not covering what's going on. They're not covering what's going on. And so we need to help parents in Burlington understand that. Incognito says, I put memo on Discord under PDFs. I think I appreciate that. So if you know anyone in Vermont, for real, this is serious. This is not drama. If you know anyone in Vermont, we would like to talk to them. And we're working on some plans to help get the word out about what's going on. We're working on some grassroots efforts. I've got a group that I'm starting on Facebook to try to coordinate. I don't know how long that group is going to be on Facebook, but Facebook is a really good place to try to coordinate this sort of thing. So please help us get the word out for anyone that you know in Burlington. And of course, we will be connecting in my locals community in about half an hour from now. And we'll be talking, I'm sure about this, but I'm sure about many other things as well. You can come to our community Zooms and really talk about like whatever you want to talk about. There are no guidelines for what you can talk about. You can talk about news, you can vent, you can get stuff out of your system, you can ask for help and support. You can just talk about life, what's going on in your life, any hard challenges you're having in your life. People talk about all sorts of things. You can talk about things you find interesting. The subject range that we cover really spans the gamut. That's what we do in our community Zooms. We do them on Mondays and Wednesdays. Got one coming up in half an hour. The way you get access to that is not by watching the stream about the Queen of England, is by going to kb.locals.com/support and joining up for $5 a month. You can also join up for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. If you ever wanted to give me a birthday present, as tomorrow is my 12th, 29th birthday, a locals membership would be the best possible present that you could give me. Guys, tomorrow we will be having Carlin's Day of Narcissism. Okay, I know I've been saying it's my month of narcissism, but I don't know what I'm going to do for the stream tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know if it'll be about me or just I'll be bitching about something else. Maybe we'll just hang out. But Joshua, tomorrow on Nothing Remotely Controversial, Joshua is going to be going through my solar return, and he is going to be talking about what we can expect this year for me. So I'm going to have a nice little psychic reading, probably what Joshua and I should have done when we were meeting today, except that we were gossiping and having brunch. So we did much more exciting things. Our usual meetings are on Monday, but I guess our official meeting will be tomorrow during Nothing Remotely Controversial. Those are on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. And yeah, everyone is welcome to watch those. All right, guys, I know this has been a haphazard stream. It's been a stressful day. I haven't had that much sleep, but I will see many of you in my locals community Zoom in less than half an hour. Please mount that like button on the way out the door, and subscribe to the channel. You know, I usually do better streams than this. All right, guys, take care. We'll see you soon.